Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Thank you so much for being here with us. How'd you get started playing guitar?
You know, I dabbled in various instruments when I was very young. I tried to play the harmonica when I was about 6 years old, and
Yeah.
I'd found notes on a piano keyboard and figured out how to make chords by playing every other note. But when I was about 10 years old, somehow an old four-string guitar and four-string banjo found their way into my parents' house. Belonged to another
tenor guitar.
tenor guitar and tenor banjo. And I was attracted to the guitar at first because it was kind of a mellow, pleasant sound and didn't hurt my fingers much, and it was lighter. And I've been motivated by watching the show Hee Haw, summer show.
Roy Clark on
I
there.
loved seeing Roy Clark play the guitar and how he made all those individual notes, and the banjo players and too. So I started trying to figure out how to play the tenor guitar and took it to a local music store. My parents took me there after I showed some promise with it. And there was an old guy who was a retired musician from St. Louis. He was actually an old banjo player too. And he said, sure, I can teach him how to play the tenor guitar. And sat me down and started me. He said, these are notes. Started showing me notes right away. This amazing guy. He wrote out like his own form of tab in a little book just on the spot. He says, what tune do you want to learn how to play, kid? And I said, can I learn how to play Home on the Range?
Yeah.
And he said, here, I'll write it out for you. Here, that's a C. Play it. Anyhow, this went on for several weeks. I was learning how to play basically chord melody on the tenor guitar right away.
Which is tuned how?
It's tuned in fifths,
In
like
fifths.
a viola.
Okay.
It's like it's a lower version of a mandolin. So it's completely different fingerings from this guitar. And after a few weeks, I let out the secret there was also banjo in the house. And he says, hey, bring that in next week, kid. And before I knew it, I was a tenor banjo player.
Yeah.
But I was always interested in jazz and the things that people were able to do on other instruments, like clarinet. I'd heard records of Benny Goodman and Count Basie when I was younger, and I'd heard a Louis Armstrong record. And in the course of meeting a fellow who was going to a local banjo club, played banjo in the spare time, I was at his house one day, and I was looking at all the records, and I was saying, oh, there's Benny Goodman, there's Count Basie, I recognize that. And this guy said, Howard, I'm surprised you're not listening to my jazz guitar records. And I said, what's jazz guitar? I don't know what jazz guitar is. He says, well, this is Charlie Christian. He was the first electric guitarist.
Charlie Christian, yeah.
Look, you know, he only lived to be 26. He played me some records, well, one record.
Yeah.
And he basically gave me a crash course in the history of jazz guitar. Now, this is Barney Kessel. He took a lot of Charlie Christian's ideas and made it his own. I just fell in love with the music. He played me records at Tal Farley. He said, look, he has really long fingers, so he plays real fast.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
This is Jim Hall. He played very more laid back, eloquently.
Yeah.
And this is George Van Epps. He plays a 7-string guitar.
Yeah.
And little did I know that years later I'd be playing the 7-string guitar.
With George Van Epps.
Well, yeah, let alone, yes.
That's right.
So that's basically how I started playing. And I started working the guitar into my act. I'd been playing banjo in places like pizza parlors and shopping malls. And I started bringing the guitar along and learning how to play it more, too. And,
Yeah.
and now I'm in Nashville talking to you.
And now you're in Nashville. Now, you're in New York right now? Or
I'm living in Phoenix, Arizona now.
Phoenix, Arizona,
Chandler,
okay.
a suburb of Phoenix.
when did you move there? I know
3 years ago.
Okay, because you were on our show
Yeah.
probably 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. And gosh, that was one of our most popular shows. I think it's got 160,000 views or so on it. And it was just brilliant, some of the concepts that we were talking about. But that's 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So. And what took you to Phoenix?
The
warmth, probably. Lack of snow, I would think, this time of year.
That's a secondary effect, but I got married to the love of my life, and she had been living there for a number of years.
Wonderful.
And originally she was planning on moving to New York to be with me.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I said, wait a minute. I'm on the road more than 2/3 of the year, and rent is really expensive in New York.
Yeah.
And I said, let me consider an alternate lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's
good.
It's great.
Good.
I still travel a lot from there, but
Yeah.
it's a wonderful place to live right now.
It is. Phoenix is beautiful.
And it's a little quieter, a little more time to think about music and other things. So
Let's talk about that amazing instrument that you've got there. This is a 7-string guitar.
it is.
So, for those of us who may not be familiar with 7-string instruments, how's that tuned? What's the lowest?
It's the same as a 6-string guitar. And in the 30s, a fellow named George Van Epps wanted to expand the range of the guitar and got the idea of adding a low A, which is an octave below the fifth string.
Fifth string, okay.
So it's an easy, just think of it harmonically, because any chord that you play the root on the fifth string, you just reach over 2 strings on the same fret, you have an octave lower and a much fuller sound.
Right.
And that's a starting point.
Which is so advantageous.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you would be really hard-pressed to be learning new forms and things, but this is with just a little bit of extension of that first finger or whatever the root is playing on the fifth string. With some amazing, comes out with some amazing voicings.
Well, here's just a brief demonstration. You know, I think last time I was on your show, I played the tune "Tears" by Django Reinhardt, and I originally learned on 6-string guitar, and it sounded something like this. When I got to 6th string, I discovered it could go like this. Et cetera, et cetera.
Beautiful.
So, it's fun.
Beautiful. Now, tell us about that particular instrument. That's a Benedetto.
This is a Benedetto. I've been playing guitars. My first 7th string was made by Bob Benedetto years ago, 1992, when I made the move. And I've had various Benedetto guitars over the years. I think I had a larger archtop last time I was at the show.
Yeah.
And I just, some other fellow Benedetto players had been playing this slightly smaller model, which is a little easier to travel with these days with the hassles of size and weight restrictions and the strength of my right arm.
Yeah.
So I just got this last week from the Benedetto company, and I'm just starting to break it in.
Oh my goodness! Well, it is. I don't know if we can get some close-up shots of it. It is just a gorgeous instrument.
Well, if you're taking notes, it's called a 16B.
16B
is the name of because of the size of the body and the shape of it, for some reason, is B.
Yeah.
And it's a 7-string option, that's all.
And it's thicker than my Collins 335 here, but it's not as thick as some of the larger Gibsons.
No, it isn't. So it's a little easier on my right arm and shoulder.
Easier to maneuver with that.
Yeah. And I've just been playing it recently, and it's feeling right at home right away, so I'm really enjoying it.
And it gets such a beautiful, warm sound. You're playing flat wound strings?
No, round wound.
Okay.
Nickel round wound standard.
Do you have to get a special 7-string set, or you just add
I just add an extra string. So regular medium gauge nickel round wound set, 13, and the 7th string. When I first started playing the 7th string, George Van Epps knew that I was about to get a 7th string, and he gave me a 7th string, which was coincidentally made by the same company as these, Diodario. And I've used that particular string, not that his string, but that model string ever since then. A Diodario round wound 80.
And you typically, I know you're just using one of the amps here, or actually my amp tonight. What do you typically run when you travel?
Well, a lot of times it's whatever's there.
Whatever's there, yeah. I know how that goes.
I make almost anything work. At home, I use an amplifier made by Quilter amplifiers in California.
Good.
Which I really like.
Good. I know.
In fact, I hooked up with them last time I was in Nashville 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I met them at the NAMM show.
Oh, that's right.
And tried out their amplifiers and fell in love with it, and I've been using it ever since then.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about your technique. You kind of effortlessly are switching between using a pick and then doing fingerstyle stuff as well.
Yeah, I've been doing a little more fingerstyle stuff recently. For years, I studied fingerstyle a little bit years ago, and then it seemed like all the situations I was in called for pick style playing.
Yeah.
Up-tempo things with backing horn players, various things like that. And acoustic guitar, like archtop type of things, playing more vintage music as well, traditional jazz. So I really let the fingerstyle technique drop, but I found ways of getting across the strings and still getting enough variety with the pick.
Yeah.
So I wasn't just strumming in single notes, the ways of jumping around and creating the impression of more than actually is going on.
That's right. I know we had a couple of people ask about your pick.
Oh, yeah.
What pick are you using?
This, a friend of mine, a great gypsy style player from Spain, Biel Ballester, turned me on to this about 6 years ago. We were both part of a tour for a couple weeks of a bunch of Django style players. And toward the end of the tour, he says, "Oh, my friend in Spain would like you to try this pick." And I'd been using a different pick, which I really liked for years. I says, "Oh, God, it looks so bad. I'll try it, sure." I think I'd just satisfy him, try it and say it's nice. And I played it with, instantly it felt so comfortable and seemed to improve my tone, both on the electric guitar and acoustic guitar. So I've been using it ever since. It's made by a company called Guzman,
Guzman, yeah.
Guzzman. And he's in Spain, and just look him up on the web. Some gypsy style specialist stores might carry him over here.
Wow. Doug, our moderator, maybe you can find us a link for that if you can. Very fascinating. Can I see that?
Yeah, let's see, that one actually, there's usually a little black thing in there which is falling out.
Right. So it's a pretty thick, I don't know whether we can get a quick shot of this, but it is a pretty thick.
Yeah, 3 something or somethings, not 3, is it 3
So it's a rather kind of standard size, but it looks like it's pretty thick, and then angled, all kinds of different angles on it.
Yeah, which
fascinating.
I don't know. He probably intended all those angles to be used different ways for different effects, but I just used the traditional end of the pick.
It does get a beautiful tone, doesn't it?
It does. It changes. It's noticeable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so they last forever. I just lose one every once in a while, and then pull another one out of the drawer.
Not that we've ever lost picks. I know. I think there is a washing machine with about 100 picks in it. Wonderful. I know last time we touched on one of the most fascinating concepts that we have talked about on live lessons. It was your approach to some voicings and voice movement within chords. You were. I wanted you to see if you could touch on that again.
Okay.
When having, I think we were doing basically these sorts of chords.
Yes.
And then dropping that fifth.
Yes.
So we were doing this.
Right.
And then adding other passing tones in there. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah. I actually came across this little phrase in an old guitar solo by George M. Smith, who was a guitar player in the 30s and 40s. And I came across this one phrase in a solo. One. And then I said, well, wait, that's just these without the fifth. The fifth doesn't really change the quality of the chord so much. It gives it a little more thickness. To me, I like a little more clarity anyway, so I like having less voices. And it leaves a finger free to do things, and we can just move the 7th to the 6th and have like another voice. So it becomes, instead of a block chord, it becomes a little string trio on the fingerboard. I'm really rushing through this. Stop me if I'm going too fast.
He's moving down to the next scale, the note in the scale,
right,
on these various voicings, and he's not using. So he's using, it's very typical jazz voicing of something on the 2nd string, usually the 3rd, something on the 3rd string, which is the 7th tone, and then something on the 5th string. So there's nothing happening on the 4th string. That's kind of being muted out by the fleshy part of your 5th string finger. It is kind of just gently touching that. So it's actually in there, but it's not being played, which leaves that extra finger free to add these moving notes in between the inner voicings of a chord, which is the good stuff. That's the good stuff as you're accompanying and doing little chord melody pieces, is being able to pull that kind of stuff off.
Exactly. And once you just get a few of these moves under your fingers, you'll just start noticing more and more ways to use them. Of course, you can go just up and down the scale simply with the step down movement. also make it a little more complex and do, like, for instance, approach that second note from a half step below. A half step below. I've been in England too much. Go down a half step.
Beautiful.
Or even more sort of Django-esque. And you can syncopate it, like the example I played at the first out of that guitar solo. Have all kinds of fun with it.
Beautiful.
But after you get used to this concept, you can find that these voices can have other functions. For instance, you could think of this as an F major seventh, root, seventh, and third.
Third, yeah.
But that can also be the upper part of a D minor ninth chord. So if someone's playing a D minor for you, or have a bass player, and you can find all kinds of little ways to make find different sounds in there. Or just another brief example: C major seventh, D flat major seventh, root seventh, third, but it can also be A seventh, sharp 9, sharp 5.
That's where that seventh string comes in.
That's where it's worth the money. Sharp 9 to flat 9. Resolving to D minor.
Yeah. Things a six-string player can only dream of with those sort of voicings. Fabulous. As you guys have questions out there, go ahead and type them in, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we have. Let's see. Doug, our moderator, is asking, do you have to think in chord inversions with that low seventh string? That would really screw me up just kind of looking at it visually, having a difference in the...
I don't really... the only visual thing that threw me at first, for the first year or so, was sometimes I would think that seventh string was the sixth string. Mm-hmm. If I didn't look, like they say, don't look down, just walk across that rope. If I didn't look down, it'd be fine. If I looked, all of a sudden I'd say, oh yeah, here's a nice G major seventh. Oh shit, no, I mean, shucks. But you just get used to it eventually.
Now, do you alternate? I mean, these days, are you playing pretty much primarily seventh string?
Pretty much primarily, all the time. For a couple of years, I wasn't able to look at a sixth string, or I'd be too confused.
Yeah.
But I got used to going back and forth when I was teaching Sean Penn during the days how to play the guitar on the sixth string, and
Tell us about that
doing some
wonderful
gigs
experience.
at night. I thought you'd never ask.
That was with the Woody Allen movie.
It was in 1997. I got called by Dick Hyman, the great jazz pianist, and he was also Woody Allen's musical director for about 20 years for his movies. And he said, in his very matter-of-fact, business-like way, he said, "Howard, it's Dick Hyman. Howard, can you play guitar exactly like Django Reinhardt?" I said, "Yes, of course, Dick. Whatever." No, I said, "Well, Woody Allen's next movie is going to be all about Django Reinhardt, and we need someone who can play that style convincingly." And I said, "Well, Dick, I've been listening to Django since I was 12 years old, and although I don't do it all the time, I think I have a good understanding of the style."
Yeah.
Anyhow, one thing led to another. When I met the producer of the movie and interviewed me, asked me about it, and wanted to hear me play a little bit. And then in the matter of minutes, he says, "Can you teach our star how to play guitar?" Sean Penn is the star of the movie, and he's never played any musical instrument at all, let alone the guitar. And so I rearranged my schedule and spent the better part of a summer not only flying to the West Coast for a couple of days a week, but also following Sean Penn to Italy while he was filming another movie to keep working on the guitar. And he was amazing. He was dead serious about it. He was very down to earth, and we started out with very basic stuff. Just to get them used to the feel of putting fingers on the strings and hitting them at the same.
Yeah.
And then while he was over in Italy working on another movie, filming all day, I'd meet him on the lunch breaks, and one night I spent like the evening time in his hotel room, and we made it we got him to play this much of a melody. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And we stopped for the night because that's a lot to retain.
Yeah.
And I called the next morning and said, Sean, what time is lunch should I come at noon or 1?
Yeah.
He says, oh, no, I have to skip a day. I said, why? He said, that after you left last night, I played that thing you showed me over and over again for 8 hours, and my fingers are kind of sore. I mean, you guitar players know what it's like to play anything for several hours. He was really focused on it. He actually did learn how to play several tunes just by sheer rote, pounding it out and memorizing it.
Yeah.
Could play a few chords, a couple of the tunes recorded on the soundtrack. And unfortunately, most of it did not make it onto the movie.
Really?
Because I was never told what tunes they were going to film.
Yeah.
You
To
know.
work with him on.
Yeah. So he just developed a way of kind of faking. He at least knew what it looked like and what the feel was for, like, he'd hear single notes and he'd go like this, and he'd hear chords and go like this.
Yeah.
But I was so disappointed. There's some things he just nailed.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it was an interesting summer.
Wow. Patrick Knight is saying, can we have a little taste of Brazilian jazz 7-string? Do you know anything? Or we could do our little bossa that we were working on earlier.
If you'd like, I could do this is like a, do you mind if I do a little solo piece?
No, do it.
This is a little thing. Brazilian jazz incorporates a lot of styles, and one of the main things in Brazil for over 100 years has been a genre called choro, which it's almost like the ragtime traditional jazz and bebop of America all put into one style. And I got fascinated with it years ago. And this is a piece written by a mandolin player called Jacob do Bandolim, and he called this Diabinho Maluco, which roughly translated means tricky little devil. And it is indeed. No.
Beautiful. What's the name of that again?
That's called Diabinho Maluco.
Wow. Wow. Well, we will let Howard rest for just a second after all of that, and we will talk a little bit more in the second half about some of the technique things that he was introducing. Plus, we have a very special guest that's going to join us for the second half, and we'll just let Howard and our guest play for a little bit. But let me let you know of a couple of things that we've got going on. First of all, we've got our Guitar Gathering Conference coming up in June 20th through the 23rd, where we have workshops during the day, hands-on guitar workshops where you can learn different skills. We've got them, some for jazz, some for fingerstyle. We've got bluegrass. We've got blues and rock, all kinds of different styles. We even have songwriting classes this year that we're doing. And then we have jam groups that you can actually learn some skills, learn some tunes, and then go to your jam group and work out those ideas that you have learned. So it's not just a conference where you're sitting there listening to people, but you actually have your guitar in your lap learning things. That's what I kind of wanted to incorporate into our conferences. So we've been doing these for many years. I think probably this is our 10th one, if I remember right. And we have several guests that are going to be with us this year. We've got Joe Robinson, the amazing Joe Robinson, younger player, won Australian Idol several years back, and now is just tearing it up all over, doing fingerstyle stuff, Chet Atkins stuff, but with almost kind of a rock and songwriting sensibility about it. Absolutely amazing. We've got Will McFarland, Musicians Hall of Fame guitarist, with the Muscle Shoals rhythm section. And so he is going to be with us as well. Fingerstyle guitar champion this year at Winfield was Christy Lene, and Christy will be with us as well. So we've got all kinds of amazing people that are going to be with us. Oh, and I forgot Phil Kagi. How could anybody forget Phil Kagi? Phil Kagi is going to be with us as well for our guitar conference. So tonight is actually the last night to get in on the early registration price. If you were on our mailing list, I sent you an email this morning. You can find out all the information at guitargathering2018.com, guitargathering2018.com, and get all the information of what you can do. There's even some spots available that you can stay actually at Trevecca University, where we're having it at, for a fraction of what you would pay in a hotel. So it's a really good deal. If you're interested, check it out. We won the Acoustic Guitar Magazine's Player's Choice Award for Best Guitar Camp several years back, and very proud of the work that we do there. It's one of the best guitar camps you're going to find around. That's June 20th through the 23rd. If you're interested in coming, check it out, guitargathering2018.com, and don't wait, because the price is going to go up literally tomorrow. The price will go up. So that's a little bit about our Guitar Gathering Conference. Hey, I haven't even pulled some things to give away, but I want to give away, we have some sets of strings from Martin. I don't even have them here with me, but I'd like to give away one of those. So the winner of one of our Martin guitar sets of strings is Voodooed 07. That's a new one, Voodooed 07. Mm-hmm. You need to email me at service@mightyoakmusic.com and send me your mailing address, what you won, your screen name, things like that, and we will get those out to you, a Martin set of strings. So congratulations for that. Also wanted to make sure and let you know about the resource that we have this month that we are offering. This is purely selfish on my part. I needed a tool like this, and I found one. This is a great little guitar tool put out by our friends over at Music Nomad, and we have got them on our, it's our monthly resource sale. We haven't done a monthly resource sale in a couple of months, but I wanted to do one because I just thought this was a cool little thing. It's pretty cheap, pretty inexpensive for all that it does. It's got a Phillips head, a flat head, fits in here, and then this is the part that matters. In here, all those little tricky things, your output jacks, if you pop these off, the little volume knob pots, things like that, even the things on your pedal board, the pedal board pots and the hex screws that go onto that. if you're like me and you're working on your guitar, I have to generally grab a tool that I usually work on the car with. And so getting it around my guitar gets really scary. This is made out of a really strong, kind of strong nylon sort of picture, so it will not scratch your instrument. But it tightens up all these wonderful little things. If you've got a Telecaster, this will sink into your Telecaster input, which is sunken in, which, if you know, is really tricky to get into. So this tool was made for all of these tricky little guitar things. It's cheap. For about the cost of a set of strings, I think we've got it for $13. If you're interested in this, go to our Guitar Gathering community website, and we've got our store there. Doug, our wonderful moderator, can put those up there. And put one of these in your little kit in your guitar with your pedals and cables and things, and you will find it's so easy to use. So get a couple of them if you want to. These are great. From our good friends over at Music Nomad, won't scratch your guitar, and all of these things. It's got 8 different tools as part of it. So anyway, check it out. A very cool little tool, and what I liked is you're not going to scratch up your guitar, and you don't have to go out to your car and your toolbox or whatever and be wrestling with stuff that you would change your oil with. All those kind of tools. So it's a great little thing. So keep that in mind.
I need one.
They're a great little tool. All right. We will, that's enough of all the announcements that I need to do. I don't think there's any other resources that we need to talk about for this. Let's get to a couple of things. Again, if you guys have questions, please put them up in the chat, and we'll try and get to as many of those as you can. Let's go ahead and welcome our special guest. We already have one special guest. Here's the second one. The great Andy Reiss is going to be joining us. Andy is the guitarist for the Time Jumpers. Come on in, Andy. Right. Welcome. We are honored to have 2 legends here, and it is great to honored to have you both here with us. And this was actually just another hilarious idea that I had to get these 2 guys in the same room together playing. So there was nothing. I think I literally Facebook messaged Andy less than 24 hours ago. Hey, you want to come over? And it's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you, Andy, for being here with us.
We were going out for dinner anyway, so I figured it made sense.
Good. All right. Let's. You guys want to play something for us?
We'd love to. We're talking.
I know you all have had extensive rehearsals.
Oh,
so.
yes, as much as we need. We've been rehearsing separately for years.
Full production rehearsal.
Well, I will let y'all do your thing.
I have to sit this way for the hum.
Oh, that's great. It's fine.
Good. I'll sit over here and be real friendly like. In a mellow tone. Yeah, man.
That was fun.
That felt good.
Yes, yes, wonderful, 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 wonderful. Fantastic, Andy. What kind of guitar are you playing there?
This is a 1955 Gibson L5 CES.
Ooh,
Mm.
That was actually given me as a gift a couple weeks ago.
really?
Mm.
That's a nice gift.
Santa Claus, very nice to me.
I'll say.
Fantastic, fantastic. Howard, do you do much? Well, I think I know the answer to this. Where it's just two guitars, a duet.
Quite a bit. I do it quite a bit with not only two guitarists, but also just guitar and one other instrument,
Yeah.
like clarinet, trumpet, violin, of course.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different combinations, but quite a bit with two guitars over the years.
When you when you were with George Van Eps for that season, it was just you and George doing.
Just me and George. We did
Well, that happened.
on two of the recordings, three of the four recordings, we used bass and drums, the great Jake Hanna
Mhm.
and bassist David Stone, but most of our gigs were just two guitars. Yeah,
Well, what was it like?
it was unbelievable. Yeah, no, really with George, all you had to do is play a simple melody,
Yeah.
he would make an entire orchestra around you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and always right there, always interesting voice movements. Like he would create a little string trio
Yeah.
behind whatever was going on,
Yeah.
and incredibly perceptive and incredibly modest.
Yeah.
He's the most unegotistical musician I've ever met.
Yeah.
Everything
I've read.
was in the service of the music and nothing else.
Yeah.
He didn't want to draw attention to himself, although he couldn't help do it because anybody who knew what was going on would realize what he's playing is just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. What? When did we pass away?
1999.
1999.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Age 85
Yeah.
or so.
Because he lived a long, full life.
He did. It was amazing because when I first contacted about recording, he kind of hemmed and hawed for a while. Said, "Oh, I'm having trouble with my right hand. A bone broken. It's healed in a different place, and oh, I'm going to be 80 this fall, and I don't know what's going to happen, And then I think when he turned 8 and woke up and he was still alive, he instantly became 10 years younger.
Because y'all were touring and he was.
We
80.
did, yeah, 80, 82. I called him and thinking, before when I'd call him, I says, "Well, I don't know, let me see." And then I said, "Hey, George, a guy in England wants us to come there for 3 weeks." "Okay, I'd love to go to England. Yeah, I'd love to get some of that good English beer." He was just all for it. He went to Germany for 4 weeks, traveled, was fine,
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
What a tremendous musician and an instructor. I know I have some of his amazing works that I think Mel Babe was putting them out there for a while, just these large compendiums of his voicings and things like that.
Harmonic mechanisms.
Harmonic mechanisms.
Line 1 and 2 and 3.
That's right. Neil ES335 is saying, did Howard ever play with Bucky Pizzarelli?
Many times.
Yeah.
I got to know Bucky a little bit when I first moved to New York. In fact, I went in to see Bucky play, and he had a steady gig at a hotel in New York for a long time with a trio, bass and piano. And I'd only met him once before, and I walked in and said, "Oh, it's Howard. I just moved here." "Oh yeah, Howard, what are you doing next Wednesday night? Can you sub for me? I need someone to sub you for the first." I said, "Wow, this is a promised land." I just walk in and Bucky Fitzgerald gives me a gig, Anyhow, but I got to know him, and then ironically, after George and I had made the first records, and a fellow had set up a little tour for us in Pennsylvania, a week or so of dates, and George was all ready to come, and then literally a day before we were supposed to go, George called and says, "I'm sorry, my doctor says I have illness and I cannot travel. I'm not allowed to. He had some serious flu." And the promoter and I talked to him, we got on the phone with Bucky, and he agreed to come out on a moment's notice. And playing with Bucky every night for a week and a half or so, we really established a wonderful rapport.
Wow.
A completely different style from me and George, but really wonderful too. So Bucky was an off and on guitar partner for the better part of 20 years.
Andy, have you had a chance to work with Bucky Pizzarelli?
No, I haven't, but oddly, I met Bucky and Howard the same day. when
Oh,
we
that's
were,
right.
I was flying to England to do a gig, and they were on the plane.
That's right.
And I ended up sitting up all night talking to Bucky.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun.
I had a lot of guitar firepower on that plane.
I'll
My
say.
goodness. Greg is saying, of course, we're tossing out these names of these great legends. George Van Epps and Bucky Pizzarelli. Someone is asking about Joe Pass. Did either of y'all ever meet Joe Pass or have the opportunity to play with him?
I met Joe a little bit when I was still in Los Angeles getting
Yeah.
started, and I went to one of his little seminars he did involved in the early days of what is now known as MI Musicians Institute. At that time it was Guitar Institute of
GIT,
Technology,
yeah.
GIT.
Which Howard Roberts started?
Howard Roberts did start it.
Yeah.
And then I got to know him some years later. I went to this annual jazz party that used to happen in Denver, Colorado. It was like a gathering of about 70 great jazz musicians, and the fellow put them on would have them each play various different combinations over the course of a weekend. It was a crazy party. Unbelievable lineup. Everybody from Ray Brown to, Phil Woods, it's crazy. And a handful of guitar players, and Joe Pass and Herb Ellis were two of them. I was there as well, and I was in all of every pretty much, And then Joe walked by and said, "Hey, what are you doing? I'm getting bored. Let's go up the room. I don't get to play until like midnight. Come on, let's go up the room and play or something.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And what happened? Sat around, played a couple of tunes, and it's good. He said, "You gonna play a solo today?" I said, "Yeah, I'm supposed to play a solo at 5 p.m." Part of it said, "What are you gonna play? Play it for me." Okay, so he is very open and very easygoing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, I played a couple of tunes with Joe Pass in his hotel room.
Well, it is just amazing to me that each player brings something so different to the instrument. I'm thinking of what George Van Epps brought to the instrument. Just the chordal, expanding of the chordal knowledge, and Joe Pass's improvisation lines and things like that. It's just amazing to me how individual players see different things in the instrument.
It's true, and just when you think you've heard everything, someone comes on and does something else.
Yeah. What was one of the things that George Van Epps that you learned from George Van Epps? I know it was a million things, but I mean his approach to something that changed who you were as a player.
Boy, just his attention to every detail. He in a chord, it never was just a C chord, G chord. He really, from the very beginning, back when he started his career in the early 30s or late 20s, he really paid attention to having control over everything that was going on and make it move logically. And it was just, but always musically too. It was never a mechanical exercise, although he called them mechanisms, and he did obviously do a lot of efficiency work on how to make the hands work more efficiently.
Yeah.
But he, and the thing that I mentioned earlier, just observing him and playing with him, noticing just how much he wanted just to make the music work, and he never did something flashy to attract attention to himself. So I always remember that.
Yeah. How wonderful. All right, we have some other questions coming along here. Can you guys, play us something else?
Yeah.
What's
Let's
something
play
else
something
you guys
else.
can play?
How about Stomping in the Sand?
Excellent.
Well, we played in D flat,
Every guitar player's favorite key.
of course, and bass players.
You gotta face this way. Single coil pickups.
Face the music and dance.
There you go. You got it.
Go Benny Goodman trick.
Perfect.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, well, it is time for us to close it out here. Let me give a couple more announcements, and then maybe y'all could close us out with one more tune. Thank you all so much for being a part of tonight, and learn all that you can. We are going to try and have this up. This should be up on our Guitar Gathering YouTube channel here in a day or so. If you can, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Guitar Gathering is who we are. Also, check out guitargathering.com/community. That's our discussion board. It's all free. I'm on there most days answering questions. Playing music is a wonderful thing, and if you can just get a little bit of information, sometimes it can keep you going. A little idea, whether it's some of the voicing ideas we talked about or other things. Take those, explore those in your own playing. Some of you were asking about our Guitar Gathering conference. The price for now is $3.99, and then the price tomorrow is going to be $4.99. So sorry, this is the end. You caught us on the exact day of the early registration ending. So, which let me just say is a steal. It's a 4-day conference, and you're paying $100 a day. I defy you to find another 4-day conference with Phil Kagi and Joe Robinson and all these caliber of people, and for an equivalent price, you're not going to find it. So, plus you have a lot of fun being here in Nashville as well. So check it out and come if you can. It's a lot of fun. We got plenty of spaces. All right. Thank you so much, Howard, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be a part of this again.
Came together in the last minute.
And such a surprise.
Andy, thanks.
Get Andy
wow,
over
what
here.
a treat having you here. Join us as well. Can you play us out with one more tune?
Let's play something with all of us.
Still blues.
Yeah.
Okay, just regular blues.
You got it.
What key you feeling, Andy? B flat.
B flat.
All right.
Be right behind you.
All right. A one, a two, a 1, 2, 3.
Shut the door.
There you are. Big ending there.
Shut the door.
Keep up the great work in your own learning, and we
beautiful.
will see you all next time.